is a historian and author, Fred Grant. Fred's going to tell us about the history of San Diego. And when you think about it, I bet that more than a few of us here know or have met a member of the Fletcher family, Colonel Ed Fletcher, who came here in 1910 or 1911 and made his mark. Fred's ancestry can be traced back to 1769, a soldier in the Spanish Army who accompanied Father Junipero Serra in establishing the first mission here of one of 21 in San Diego. His son became the first de facto mayor of the San Diego area and eventually obtained a land grant that included the land in Rancho Santa Fe. And also in the family line, one of the members married into the local Indian tribe, married a woman that was an Indian, which makes Fred a direct descendant of one of the first Europeans to settle in this area, and also the Native Americans who are here. Fred's a member of the Rancho Santa Fe Historical Society. He's president of the ranch, and also has been the president of the Chamber of Commerce for the Old Town for over 20 years. That's right. So we're absolutely delighted and excited to have Fred speak here today. And I'll make a serious comment about history, and that is that history is timeless. Fred, you got 20 minutes.
Beautiful, thank you, Tom. Let's see, where's the best place to stand? Make sure I can see the slides. So don't you love Rancho Santa Fe? I mean, this is such a great place. And everybody's so polite and friendly. I mean, right here in the village, if you come to an intersection at the same time with another car, I mean, everybody knows the most expensive car goes first. It's just a given. I really do enjoy living here. And I want to say something about Rotary because I've been observing all the wonderful work that you do. And I know that you are all tireless community partners working on all these terrific projects. And I've also been informed that you're very, very intelligent and you'll be able to completely comprehend the 12,000-year history of San Diego that I'm about to give you. And I will even guarantee that at the end of my talk, that you will be able to convey this information to someone else accurately. I'll 100% guarantee it because I'm going to give you a cheat sheet, one page that will have all of the significant events in San Diego history, which basically follow into 4 different periods. The first and the last periods are really easy to remember. People who've lived here their whole lives have trouble with the 2 periods in the middle. So the first period is the period of our first people, the prehistoric times. Right here in the San Diego Valley, there's proof through carbon dating that people have lived in this valley for 12,000 years. They were our first people. They lived along the banks of the San Diego River. They had it pretty good because they had great fresh water from the river. They had fertile soil. They had game. They could go to the ocean. They could pick shellfish right out of the ocean. It was a very good life. And it still is a good life. When you think about it, the same things that they enjoyed back then are the things we enjoy. This beautiful weather and the beautiful surroundings. So the Kumeyaay people have become more well known recently. I was involved in that's the first period. So I'll give you the 4 periods up front. The first period is prehistoric time, which are native people. The last period is the American period, which most of you are familiar with, starting around 1850. And the 2 periods in the middle that people have a lot of trouble with are the Spanish period and the Mexican period. And I'm going to give you some milestones that you can identify with and tell you a few colorful stories from each of those periods, and hopefully you'll remember. So here we go. This is the group that I represent. We're headquartered in Old Town. We have about 650 descendants of early San Diegans families, including Native people that love to hear their history and their stories told accurately. Some of the stories, especially the ones involving our first people, are ugly stories. They're very brutal, and some really bad things happen to the Indians in this area. But all they really care about at this point is that the story is told accurately. And so that's what I try to do when I go back and discuss the Native people. And I've been very blessed. I got to work on some incredible projects. This is one I worked on down in the Coachella Valley with the Agua Caliente band of Cahuilla Indians. They owned quite a bit of property in the Palm Springs area, and we worked for almost 10 years to create the Santa Rosa San Jacinto National Monument. So 280,000 acres dedicated to their history and the ecology of that region. And this woman in the picture with me here at the grand opening was Mary Bono. She was our congresswoman. Some people know her as Sonny Bono's second wife. But she worked tirelessly to help make that national monument a reality. And there's a beautiful visitor center down there that you could see on your next trip to the desert. This is an example of a Lusaino Indian basket. And the author of this coffee table book was my cousin, Justin Farmer. He was a collector of Lusaino baskets. He had a pretty magnificent collection, which he sold to Pachanga for $1 million and established the Justin Farmer Foundation to provide scholarships to young Indian students. And one of his baskets, you can see this was a series that was actually became United States postage stamps. The one in the lower corner, the Lusaino basket, was the one on the cover of the book. And there's Justin. He recently just passed away, but what a terrific guy. He was totally dedicated to preserving the art of basket making, which even among the Kumeyaay was nearly lost. This is another project that I worked on in the Warner Valley, and I wanted you to see these adobes because this is at Warner Hot Springs, and that was where the Cupeño Indians lived for many, many generations. They were forced to leave at gunpoint in 1901 after it went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. They evicted the Cupeño people from Warner Hot Springs, and they would put them on wagons and drove them to Pala, where they relocated at the Pala Indian Reservation. So this picture was taken when the Cupeños were still there. That's my cousin's mother sitting in her mother's lap, Lucille Ortega. And you see the metates there, those grinding rocks you see all over San Diego County. The Indian women, that was their outdoor kitchen. That's how they would, part of the process of making food out of acorns. The Cupeños, many of them didn't speak English. So here, these wagons show up. They tell them to put all their belongings in one wagon, and they're going somewhere. They don't even know where it is. They don't know if they're being taken out to be slaughtered or what. So they call it their Trail of Tears. And many of the Cupeño people are still members of the Pala tribe. If you're familiar with off of Highway 15, Pala has $1 billion casino and 4-diamond hotel, and that's where the Cupeño people were relocated. This is one of the Cupeño village adobes that was actually occupied by Kit Carson. There's a brass plaque on this adobe. Kit Carson was an Indian guide that accompanied Lieutenant Fremont. When he came here on a secret mission, he was sent by President Polk to basically look into taking California away from Mexico. So that was the start of the Mexican-American War, because California had, this is going to be on your cheat sheet when we leave, if you want to take it with you. California was a Mexican territory, and the United States of America took California away from Mexico as part of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And in 1850, California became a state in the United States of America. So that was the Spanish period, was after the native people, then the Mexican period, and ultimately the American period. This is a story that not very many people know, but it's another one of those ugly stories of our early history with Indians. Antonio Guerra was a tribal leader in Warner Hot Springs around 1850 when the government decided to start taxing the Indians. If they couldn't afford to pay the taxes, they would just take their livestock. And Antonio Guerra was actually educated at one of the missions, San Luis Rey. By the way, sometimes you'll hear our Indians referred to as Lusaino or Degano. That was a moniker given to them by us, because if they were near the San Luis Rey mission, they were Lusaino. If they were near the San Diego mission, they were Degano. So sometimes you'll hear that. Antonio Guerra was educated at San Luis Rey, and when they start taking their livestock and imposing these taxes, you go, well, what do we get for that? It's like taxation without representation. So he decided to organize the tribes, and it's known as the Guerra Uprising. They were going to band together. There were more Indians than there were white people. They were going to just drive the white people out. And a couple of settlers were murdered at Warner's. They got word of it down in Old Town. Antonio Guerra was reputed to be the leader. So they sent a posse out to arrest Antonio Guerra. They brought him to the first courtroom in the Old Town State Park, still there. And this was his trial in 1852. It probably lasted all of about 10 minutes. The kangaroo court, they sentenced him to death by execution. They marched him down San Diego Avenue to the El Campo Santo, which is still there. In fact, it's right across the street from my office. They forced him to dig his own grave, and they forced every Indian in the area to gather and watch his execution. They wanted to teach him a lesson. So he dug his own grave. The firing squad was composed of townspeople because the military refused to participate in this. Ironically, one of the townspeople that volunteered was Thomas Whaley. Has anyone heard of the Whaley House in Old Town? It's reputed to be the most haunted house in America. Well, after Whaley participated in the execution of Antonio Guerra, a lot of really bad things happened to his family. And I'm not going to list them all, but he had one child die in infancy. He had a daughter commit suicide in the backyard of the Whaley House. When he was out of town, a group of armed thugs broke into the Whaley House and stole all the county records, and it's reputed that one of them raped Mrs. Whaley in this process. A lot of bad karma, I think, because of the fact that he was involved in an evil act. But this is Warner's Koopa Village, which I spent 5 years documenting the location of each and every adobe there. They're still standing. It's the oldest still standing adobe village in the Western United States. And when we celebrated the birthday of San Diego this last year, well, actually it was 2 years ago, in 2019, I was asked to preside over the largest of 3 events that we had to commemorate the birthday and the anniversary. And they were calling it the 250th anniversary, but as we've already discussed, the Indians were here a lot longer than that. So I insisted that we invite the Kumeyaay to speak at that event, which they did. And the gentleman that's at the podium right now is Professor Stan Rodriguez. He's one of the professors at Kumeyaay Community College. He actually did have some very brutal stories to tell, but at the end of his remarks, he said, I know none of you had anything to do with it. All we care about is that our story is told accurately. And what more could you ask? This is a typical Kumeyaay dwelling that would have been found here along the banks of the San Diego River, not too far from here. And this is my great grandmother, Bernadine Osuna, that her family probably would have lived in a hut like that. And My daughter, a few generations later, was excelling in the academic team at Torrey Pines High School, so they asked her to go to Chicago for this competition. While she was there, they were auditioning folks for College Jeopardy Championship. So she auditioned and found out a few days later that she got selected as she was entering Harvard. She represented Harvard with Alex Trebek in the College Jeopardy Championship. And I was thinking, gee, that's pretty ironic. Well, only a few generations ago, some of her ancestors were living in huts out here by the river. So that was cool. This is a map of the Kumeyaay Nation. This was actually drawn by the Spanish when they arrived in 1769. So if you notice, there's the international border runs right through the middle of it. There are 4 reservations, so to speak, on the south side of the border. They're still there. And then there are about 12 or 13 on the north side of the border. Some of them you would probably recognize, like Juan and San Isabel and Viejas, and the Verona. Some of them have casinos, some of them don't. There's still a lot of poverty on these reservations if you're a non-gaming tribe. So they did start working together on things, and they can't always agree on everything. Even when we celebrated their history in Old Town, the Kumeyaay couldn't agree on what their flag should look like. So this is the Kumeyaay flag that's flying over the Sarah Museum right now. It's a combination of all their different tribal logos. So it is truly amazing. And by the way, this is I'm going to give you a link to the Kumeyaay.com website. This is a children's game where the kids can, it's kind of like bingo, they can pick out certain things in nature that were important to the Kumeyaay people. And when they get a bingo, then they go into the museum and get a little prize. But we now have something that you won't find anywhere else in the United States, a new 2.5-acre exhibit at the Old Town State Historic Park called The Land of the First People. And this celebrates the history and culture of the Kumeyaay. There's even a store there. You can buy Kumeyaay baskets and pottery and so forth. And it's right next to the most visited state park in California, the Old Town State Historic Park. Pre-COVID had about 4 million visitors a year, so it's pretty incredible. I like to show this diagram of the original courtyard in Old Town because you can see there was an Osuna residence right near the place where the flagpole is located in the state park. It's no longer there. It's not one of the buildings that they rebuilt. That's kind of a zoom of a rendering of it. The Casa de Juan Maria Osuna was once there. It's no longer there. So really the only Osuna dwellings that are still in existence are the 2 that are here at Rancho Santa Fe. So Osuna 1, which is owned by the association and is beautifully maintained, and Osuna 2, which is on the former Big Crosby estate, which nobody can get in and see, and it's been kind of altered so many times that it's hard to recognize. But I do consider it very significant that we have Osuna 1 because it's really the only remaining Osuna dwelling in San Diego County. And his family had so much to do with our history. This is where they're buried in Old Town at the El Campo Santo, same cemetery where Antonio Guerra was executed. This is the Osuna adobe down here on the other side of Villa del Valle. And this is how it looks today. I took these pictures. Isn't that a beautiful pastoral setting? We are so blessed that the association had the foresight to preserve what's left of the Osuna Ranch. At one time, when he received his Spanish land grant, it was 2 square leagues, Spanish leagues of property. That's 8,000 acres. Now it's down to this, 28 acres. And we really need to make sure that it's preserved. In fact, I'm leading a group of historic preservationists throughout California that are currently preparing recognition for the Rancho Santa Fe Association for their preservation efforts of maintaining this entire, what's left of the Osuna Ranch. It's a big deal, and it's a beautiful property. So at this time, I'd like to tell a story about Osuna. The last Osuna to live in the Osuna 1, the adobe, was Leandro Osuna. And some historians remember Leandro because he was involved during the battle for California. He was involved in the battle at the San Pasqual battlefield near the zoo park in San Pasqual Valley. In fact, his bullet entered the forehead of the lieutenant, let's see, what was his name? He was the gentleman that was actually the diarist for the American troops that came to vanquish the Californians. And at the last minute, when they drank more than they ate the night before in Ramona, and they were heading down to San Pasqual, and it was a wet morning, and their gunpowder was wet. Their guns didn't operate efficiently, and so as they were giving the order to trot, one of the leaders thought they said to charge, and so they charged right into Leandro Osuna, who killed Lieutenant Gillespie, who was leading the charge. So on April 3rd, 1859, 3 weeks after his 42nd birthday, Leandro borrowed a pistol from a visiting nephew and shot himself. At least one Osuna, melancholy Leandro, never left the valley he so loved. On stormy spring nights, the thundering hoofbeats of Leandro's favorite bay horse, El Apache, has been heard echoing across Via de la Valle. Old-timers tell stories of sighting Leandro walking leisurely through his ancestral lands across the wide green valley that lay below his old adobe. Recent occupants of the Osuna adobe have had varying experiences in the old home. One owner, Mrs. George Willoughby, never actually saw the ghost herself, but cited local legends and tales of Leandro's night rides. Another resident of the adobe, Rancho Santa Fe pioneer and historian Constant Klopfelder, told my friend Richard Carrico that she and several members of her family most certainly saw the image of a Mexican ranchero within the home. She stated that they felt no evil or menace in his presence. He seemed lost and sad as he walked through the house where he ended his unhappy life. More current owners scoff at the idea of a ghost in the home, perhaps after such a tumultuous life and tragic death. Leandro Osuna, grandson of a proud Indian woman, has finally found peace in the San Diego Valley, the land of his ancestors. And then again, perhaps not. You might see him around sometime. I represent the Historical Society. We have a wonderful collection of images of the inn here. The Murata, which was the first building that was built by Lillian Rice in 1922. There's a great, if you haven't been over to the La Fletch House, get over there and take a look at some of these images. And of course, Lillian Rice is everywhere. Her signature is everywhere. You can walk around the village and see a lot of wonderful buildings that she had something to do with. And even the homes on La Flecha and the old entrance to Murata, all these are available, including pictures of people like, oh, let's see, this is Mannion having lunch with Holly at one of the other guest houses. We have those in our collection. The last thing I want to say is that thank you for having me here today. History is made every day. And next year, when we celebrate the 100th anniversary of this inn, which was once the guest house, the La Murata in Rancho Santa Fe, the general manager, who is the first of her gender in 100 years to be the general manager, I think she had something to do with us being able to be here today and have lunch. So that's Michelle Yanagi. She's making history today as we speak. Thank you very much.
Okay. Fred, we have a gift for you. Celebrating San Diego. This is some recipes that were provided by the residents of the ranch. Then we put it in the cookbook. And we'd like to take advantage of your historical discernment. And if you feel that it would be better to put it in a time capsule for 100 years, rather than utilize it by all means. But if you do, we have a caveat that after 100 years, it be returned to Lauren Fields, which shall be 117. Thank you, Fred.
You and I, sir. See, I have to go to the husband's first.
You should just be able to push it up.
Can I ask everyone to please? Don't give a woman a hill. Can I ask everyone to be seated? And first of all, while you are taking your seat, I'd like to thank everybody for your patience for changing venue this week. If you have any difficulties, we have a very attentive staff. We are having a plated meal today. That's why I need everybody to be seated. And I apologize that we aren't able to have as long as social time, but you will get to know your table mates very well. So they're going to be bringing around the plates, and I thought while we were doing that, I wanted to let you know, I'm not actually calling the meeting to order yet, but I wanted to let you know that our Castro-Terrian Denise Stein has donated caramels on the table for our dessert. And there is one jar of chutney on each table. So what I would like you to do is I would like the 3 tables on this side to find out who is the longest time as a Rotarian. And I would like the 3 tables on this side to determine who is the shortest time. This is only at your table. Okay? So once you figure that out, the winner takes home the chutney.
How are you? I know. Where are you putting the table? Where are you putting the table? No, you have all those people back there.
Now I'm going to remind us, people in the meeting, talking about vegetarian. I'd like to call this meeting vegetarian. And I'd like to ask Chuck Badger to lead us in the flag salute.
Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Paula Shaw, I'd like to call her forward for an inspiration. And again, thank you everyone for your patience on meeting at a different location and having all of the trials and tribulations.
Atención. It's so. Imagine my sheep and another if you were there. So next week, before we meet again, there's a very special day that's going to happen, and it's called Valentine's Day, the day we honor love. And I think it's important that we remember that that day is not just about romantic love. It's about love of family, love of friends, love of self. So I'd like to read you today one of my favorite readings from one of my favorite books, Alan Cohen's A Deep Breath of Life. And it's called Be My Valentine. The legend of Saint Valentine goes back to the early days of Christianity, when Christians were being persecuted by the Romans. One Christian, Valentinus, was tried as a heretic and sentenced to death. In prison, Valentinus befriended a guard who respected his wisdom, and soon the guard brought his 7-year-old blind daughter, Julia, to Valentinus for lessons. Daily, the two talked of important things, and Julia developed a deep love and respect for her mentor. One day, Julia asked him, Valentinus, do you think I'll ever be able to see? Valentinus thought for a moment and answered, with love in your heart and belief in God, anything is possible, Julia. At that moment, Julia was overtaken with a flash of light, and suddenly her eyesight was restored. Valentinus, I can see, the child shouted. Praise be to God, he humbly answered. The next day, when Julia came to visit Valentinus, he was gone. He had been taken to his execution. Julia found this note. My dear Julia, although we shall never see each other again, know that I will always love you. You are very dear to me. I will stay unseen by your side, and I will live in your heart. I believe in you. Signed, your Valentine. Be a true Valentine by reminding your beloved ones that they are unlimited. Inspire them to trust their heart's wisdom, and miracles will occur. And if you are your own Valentine, remember that all the love you need is within you, just as you are, right where you are.
To welcome all of our visitors. And while I do that, Cindy has circulated a card for Stephen King. So if you could all please sign, get well, speedy recovery.
Okay, everybody, we're going to be introducing our guest now, so we'd like your attention, please. Right next to me, a guest of Holly Mannion, who's a guest of Heather Mannion, is Bill Strong.
Yes, hi, I'm Bill Strong. I've been in the ranch a long time. I've known a lot of members of Rotary, and I really enjoy the enthusiasm of this group. I served on the board about 20 years ago with Holly. We started projects to preserve the uniqueness of Rancho Santa Fe. And I have been my second term now, separated by 18 years to think about it. And there's still work to be done. So it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you all.
Thank you. All right, and also at my table is Bella Barbara, and she is the. Okay.
Can you say where you go to school?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm so.
Junior, sophomore.
Hi, I'm Bella, and I go to school at Christian Tide. I'm a junior. And yeah, I'm just here with my mom.
Angela, one of my favorite Angelas. She's a guest of Hal.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Angela Fertile, and I am a native here of San Diego, and I'm excited to be here and to get to know you along the way. Thanks. Thank you.
And Jay, you're from Jim. I mean, you're guest of Jim.
You know, we want to make the distinction. Right.
I gotta be careful.
Jay Robbins, I'm actually a native of New York, but my mother was born and raised in San Diego. So always have enjoyed living here and having a great time. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Is anybody here? Bob. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bob. I'm here in the district. And my second visit, and enjoying it just as much as the first. It's a very special group, and I look forward to moving forward and enjoying more of the activities and the programs that you all come to. Thank you.
Yep. We have a visiting Rotarian. He's the president of Rotary After 5 Escondido. This is Dave Jones.
Thank you, guys. I'll be doing an announcement a little bit later, but I would like to invite you all, for anybody that needs makeup or red badges. You know, our club is the drinking club with a Rotary problem. The first and third Wednesdays at 5:15. We just moved. We're now at the Chamber of Commerce in Escondido. So stop by and do makeup.
While you have the mic, why don't you tell us about your fundraising?
Oh, okay. So I'm here because we are having a fundraiser. We're having it in Rancho Santa Fe, so I figured I'd at least invite people to walk or crawl home or whatever. But this was scheduled. This was going to be our Roaring 20s fundraiser. It was going to occur 2 years ago, and it's been a long time coming. But we're looking to make some money now, so we can raise money. We give a lot of money away. We're involved very heavily with schools. We have a lot of educators in our club. We're very involved with schools in Escondido, underprivileged kids with PAL, etc. So I've got some flyers here I'll pass around if you're interested in coming. It's a full sit-down dinner at Morgan Run, and it's February 26th. So it's almost been canceled. But we're on. We're good for February 26th. So please come join us. If you want to buy a table for $5 grand, you can talk to me too. Cash only for that.
Holly is a sister of Heather. She's like to introduce her.
No. Anyway, and I know you work hard. Thank you very much because Heather is never around. She's always working and always excuses. Anyway, you're doing a good job and thank you very much. And thank you for having me. What a great lunch. I love eating in the great room. I would like to come the next time you're here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Holly.
Okay, Gary and Julie McCoy, they're guests. Yeah, you get to do it 3 times because they're people that weren't here last time. You were here. And they're guests of this, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Exactly the same. All right, then I'm your
Louder.
Julie and Gary McCoy, and here in today. Our background is in real estate, banking, mortgage, and all over the board there. Retired now, and excited about the possibility of Rotary. We've been looking for some way to volunteer and to give back monetarily, and this looks like a good thing.
Let's have another guest, Mark Katz.
Hello, I'm Mark, also a friend of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Here to find out what it is and how it is.
And Karen? She's not here yet. Okay, she signed in, but she's not here. Okay. No, you signed her in. Okay. All right. Great. Thanks. That's it. Welcome, everyone.
I want to give a big shout out to our new audiovisual team that consists of the chairman, Chris, Eli, on the committee. Thank you so much for getting things going today. I have some other needs I want to talk to you about. Fortunately, this room is small and noisy, so you can give me your attention. attention, would be appreciated. Want to keep the meeting going so we have enough time to hear the speaker. So we have needs. If you could please talk to me about if you're able to help the Rotary Club with the youth, Operation Game On, Rotarians at Work. We need more greeters. So we love having all these new members now have to do their red badge and get you involved. And those of you who've been complacent, we can get you back on a committee. Want to remind you that February 16th, we will be at Loma Santa Fe, and that will be our Valentine meeting. We are going to have a special celebration, and